Hello, my name is Marshall Goldsmith. I've been ranked number one leadership thinker in the world twice. I've been ranked top executive coach in the world, and I'm an author or editor of 51 books, including four New York Times bestsellers. And I'm so proud of my new book, The Earned Life, which is also a New York Times bestseller. And it's the most critically acclaimed book I've ever done. Now, the dumbest advice I ever got is called go for it. Go for it. I'm out there surfing. I'm out there surfing. And yeah, I don't know anything about surfing. And but you get macho, and I'm with two other guys, and then waves get bigger, and I got lucky on a couple of them. Go for it, go for it. So I go out there like an idiot, and I try to ride a 9-foot wave, which immediately flips me over. Like if you don't know what you're doing, it's like going into a mountain, right? Flips me over, bang, bashes my head. I ended up breaking my neck in two places. Thank goodness I'm still alive. But that is probably the dumbest advice I ever got. And I listened to it like an idiot. And so I talk about it in the book.
Who gave you that advice, Marshall? Who would tell you to risk your life and go for it?
My alleged friends. And by the way, I was telling them the same idiot advice, so I can't blame them.
That's so funny.
Macho boy idiots.
Yeah. Yeah, the stuff we do when we're young isn't always the stuff that we do when we're a little more experienced, huh?
I was 27. My wife pointed out that I was perhaps a little too old to be doing dumb things like that.
Oh, I don't know, Marshall. I don't think you're ever too old to do dumb things. So I think that's okay, right? Doesn't matter when. So that's cool. Well, smart thing, right? Writing another New York Times bestseller. So I have to say, Marshall, this is the perfect time for this book, at least in my opinion. I mean, I'm not surprised it's critically acclaimed. I'm not surprised it hit number one. But when did you start writing this book, Marshall? Did you know that the timing was going to be so good?
This book is a product of COVID. Actually, what happened is I lived in Rancho Santa Fe, California for the same house for 30 years. We're going to sell our house and move to Nashville because my daughter's here. And then what happened is we got an apartment on the beach because I thought it'd take a while to sell the house. I didn't want to leave town. So we lived in La Jolla on the beach. Then boom, COVID hit. So I'm stuck there for like a year and a half. Good place to be stuck, at least. I'm stuck there for about a year and a half. And then I started doing Zoom calls with 60 amazing people every weekend, my friend Mark Thompson and I. And we called them a life plan review process. And these were just amazing people. We had Curtis Martin, the National Football League Hall of Fame, Pau Gasol. We had Broadway stars, head of the Olympic Committee, Rockefeller Foundation, World Bank, all amazing people every weekend. And they talked about their life. And they talked about what works, what doesn't. And that's what led to the book, The Earned Life.
Wow, that's so fantastic. So I read this story about Curtis Martin in your book, and I was like, that's pretty prescient for being an athlete of that import, right? I mean, he made that Hall of Fame, and yet he knew right away, like this wasn't it for him. He had bigger aspirations. So I know you didn't coach him on that, Marshall, to get there, or maybe you did, but holy crap, like how does someone get that level of understanding early on that's going to impact their life later on?
Well, Curtis Martin is one out of a million. And so if you look at the average National Football League player that retires, they are disasters. Huge percentage bankrupt, divorced, depressed, mentally or physically beat up, right? A lot of problems. And Curtis did not become those problems. Curtis really focused on what's his aspiration in life, his higher level mission. Very, very inspirational guy just to be around, and is also a very, very successful businessman. So Curtis is kind of, to me, the role model of, what to do after you achieve.
Yeah, after you achieve. That's so interesting, right? So because often we achieve and then we stop and we look back, right? We have the Al Bundy syndrome of, hey, in high school I scored 6 touchdowns and I'm awesome. And that
Right.
doesn't help us. And you talk about that really well in the Earned Life. So why does that not helpful, Marshall? Why does that not serve us?
Well, one of the things I talk about in the book is 3 levels. One is we need a higher level of aspiration. What am I doing this for? If you're achieving, what are you achieving for? Is there a reason? And so we need some higher purpose or aspiration that doesn't have a finish line or a goal line. 2, then we need ambitions, and our achievements are the achievement of goals, which do have a fixed deadline. And then 3, we have our day-to-day actions. Now, the problem is, in the past, if you look at our history as a species, most people were focused on the action phase. They just lived day-to-day lives, and they got lost in the immediate. When I broke my neck, it's a great example. It was not connected to some higher aspiration. I had no desire to be a big surfer, and it wasn't some ambition. I was just lost in the thrill of the moment at almost the expense of my life. So that's one of the examples from the book. A lot of people are lost in that action phase, video game addicts, social media. And so even today, a lot of people are lost in the action phase, probably most people. Some people get lost in the aspiration phase. They have these lofty ideas and they love humanity and all that, but they don't do anything. Unfortunately, many human service leaders that I've coached love humanity. They just hate human beings. They just can't stand humans. They love humanity, though. They love the big picture of humanity. They just don't like the real breathing kind that they have to deal with every day. The people that I work with, the people that are listening to this podcast, tend to be focused on the ambition and the achievement level. And, they fall into a trap. The trap is addiction to achievement. Everything will be fine after I achieve blah, 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 fill in the blanks, after I win the Super Bowl, after I make the NFL, after I write the book. It's all going to be good after that. Well, this is a fool's game for a variety of reasons. One, there's one type of book that always has the same ending, and they lived happily ever after. That book is unfortunately called a fairy tale. That's not the real world. That's not how it works. And the other thing is, our achievement, we don't have total control over achievement. I didn't make up COVID. You didn't make up COVID. Our achievement is impacted by thousands of variables we can't control. And then number two, what happens after you achieve something? Well, what happens after you achieve something is, what do you want to do? More. I got to get more. How long does that achievement bring any satisfaction? And the Buddhist term for this is called the hungry ghost. I'm always eating, but I'm never full. Well, if you get focused on achievement, you can't. If the results of what you do are a measure of your value as a human being, you're screwed. You can't win. One of my clients is Albert Bourla. Albert wrote an endorsement for the book. By the way, if you read the first 6 pages of the book, I was pretty proud of who endorsed that book.
Yeah. Wow.
There were some reasonably big hitters. They were my clients who endorsed that book. Well, one of them is Albert Bourla, CEO Pfizer. So I talked to Albert. I said, Albert, a few months ago, Albert, how's it going? How's last year? He said, hey, pretty good year. I came up with that vaccine thing. That was good, right? And then this new pill, good. Stock price, all-time high. And CEO of the year and new book. And I said, great, Albert. That's great. What's your problem? He said, I have a huge problem. So what's your problem? He said, next year. Next year. You think the people that bought the stock here care what he did last year? They could care less. Michael Phelps, 25 gold medals. What do you think about doing after he won his 25th gold medal? Killing himself. If that's your value as a human being, you got to beat last year, it's a fool's game. One of the guys in our group is Safi Bakal. Safi, a very brilliant guy, wrote a book called Loon Shots, started businesses worth tens of millions of dollars. He consulted to presidents, blah, 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 PhD in physics from Stanford. Safi said he always believed that happiness was a dependent variable based upon achievement. And if I achieve, I will be happy. And Curtis Martin taught him that happiness and achievement are independent variables. You can achieve a lot and be happy. You can achieve a lot and be miserable. You can achieve nothing and be happy, and you can achieve nothing and be miserable. They're both good. They're independent variables. So, and I talked to Safi, and I said, Safi, you already got a PhD in physics from Stanford. You're already rich. You started 4 companies. You consulted to presidents. You wrote a New York Times bestselling book. If that's not enough to make you happy, if achievement's going to make you happy, you're already 99.999 now. You really believe getting to a 99.9999 is going to make any difference? Not really. Not really. You said you're right. It's hopeless. You can't win. That's the great Western disease. I will be happy when.
So how do we get past that, though, Marshall? I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, sure, they're independent but either, often the feeling of not enough. I still need to collect. I still need to get more. I'll be, to your point, right? I'll be happy when, or the other side, well, I've got everything, but this isn't it, right? This isn't all there is, right? So how do we move past that? I mean, I read, I read in the book, right? What's stopping us? I mean, are those the seven things that hold us back, or is there more there that we need to know?
Well, one of the things that hold us back from what I'm just talking about is, I mean, to me, the shock is not that some people are there. The shock is that everybody isn't there all the time. Why? What is a great Western art form? There's one cultural message that you have received, Phil, probably thousands of times. And it's always the same drama. It sounds like this. There's a person. No, the person is sad. No, they spend money. They buy a product and they become happy. This is called a commercial. Now, Phil, have you ever seen one of those before? Those commercials?
I have, Marshall, sadly,
How
many
many?
of them.
How
Too
many?
many.
Over and over and over, the same message. You will be happy when. And the message is happiness, peace, it's out there. No, it isn't. It's not out there. You're not going to get it. You're not going to find it. It's in here.
Okay, so when in your life, Marshall, did you learn that? I mean, after you almost died surfing, or was it because of your Buddhist studies, or when did you
Yeah,
find that?
I would say studying, I've probably read 400 books on Buddhism. So I've studied more about Buddhism than I've studied. I have a PhD in management, but I've studied more in Buddhism than I ever studied about that. And, there are many schools of Buddhist thought. So when someone says they're Buddhist, it doesn't tell you very much because Buddha said only do what I teach if it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Well, there's so many interpretations of Buddhism. So my interpretation, which I never say is right or wrong, just my interpretation is this. Buddha was brought up very rich. His father always believed he would find happiness if he kept giving him more. So he gave him more and more and more, and he lived in kind of a protected bubble. He was able to sneak outside this bubble 3 times. First time, what he learned, people get old. That's not so good, old. Second time, sick. Ooh, sick. Third time, die. Die. Old, sick, and die. He realized all this money and glamour, old, sick, and die is not going anyplace. It's not going to solve that problem. So he said, I can never be happy with more. He went out and tried to be happy with less. He starved himself, You know what he learned? Didn't work either. Never be happy with less. You know what he finally realized? There's only one time I can ever find happiness and peace. Now. There's only one place. Here. This is it. It's the only one thing I can ever be happy with, what I have. So, Phil, where's Nirvana? Listening to a bald guy right here talking on this show. This is it. It's not out there someplace. This is it. Welcome to Nirvana. If it's not here, it's not any place.
That's beautiful. But that's so empowering. That's so, because so much of everything else in the world is so disempowering. But to understand that the present is all we have, it's the right here and the right now. I think that's important that we understand they're both. So with that, Marshall, I'm reading your book here. It was a footnote, but I think an important one here. You talk about teachers and how
Yeah.
your mom was a teacher and that. I mean, do you consider yourself a teacher now? And why are teachers, obviously mom, but why else are teachers so important to you?
Well, I would say that's my number one identity would be teacher. I mean, I'm famous for being a coach, but as a coach, coaches are not teachers. They don't like the role of teacher. On the other hand, I see myself as a teacher. I love teaching. My mom was a teacher. My daughter's, she's a great teacher. She's a professor at Vanderbilt. She's already a full professor, chair, head of the department. She's only 43. She's a great teacher. I would teacher of the year many times. She's a great teacher. My wife is a great teacher. So, I've always liked teachers. So teacher is just a large part of my identity. And I like it for 2 reasons. One, sounds better, helping others, which I like that. But 2, I just enjoy it. So for me, I can't say when I'm a teacher, I'm a martyr or a victim or something. I just love it.
So what's the difference between a teacher and a coach then, you, Marshall? That's interesting.
Well, I mean, to me, there doesn't have to be any difference, but some people define coaching as much more asking questions and more of a process where, you encourage the other people to figure things out themselves. I'm not one of those coaches. And again, I'm not saying right or wrong, because that approach can work too. It's just different.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about what's stopping us from getting to the earned life, to getting that nirvana, if you will, other than understanding that it's right here and right now. You give 7 things in the book. You talk about inertia, programming, obligation, a bunch of other stuff here. But
Well,
one of the ones that I
pick
thought
your,
was,
yeah,
oh,
pick your
good.
favorites. We'll just talk
Yeah,
about
no,
one
no,
or
I
two.
was going to. Yep. Nope, that's what I was going to say, right? So 7 of them there. The big one that I wanted to talk about was the winded by the pace of change,
Yeah.
because sometimes, right, the change, I think sometimes it just gets us, right, and it takes us. I think that plus inertia is a recipe for disaster. So let's talk about how that impacts us, right? The winded by the pace of change.
Well, I think we all have a dream. Now, I'm one of I wrote an article called Leadership is a Contact Sport. If anybody listening wants to get a copy of it, send me an email, marshall@marshallgoldsmith.com. I'll send you a copy of it. Leadership is a contact sport. And I talk about the importance of feedback and how people get feedback and then they follow up and they get better. And then, well, everybody says they're going to do what I teach. 98% say they'll do it. And then the study shows about a year later, 30% do nothing. So I interviewed the people who do nothing. I'm the only teacher I've ever met that's collected feedback from tens of thousands of people. I measured, did they do what I said and did they get better? Well, the good news, people do it, get better. The other good news, people don't do anything, don't get worse. They stay the same. Well, they don't get worse, they stay the same. So it's all good. So I interview the people who do nothing and say, why'd you do nothing? And Phil, it's going to go back to your question. The answer is always the same. It sounds like it's a dream. It sounds like this. I'm incredibly busy right now. Given the rapid pace of change and new technology and emails and voicemail that follow me around, it seems like it never stops. I feel as busy as I ever have. Sometimes, in fact, I feel overcommitted. I don't tell others this, but every now and again, my life feels just a little bit out of control. But I'm working on some very unique and special challenges right now. I think the worst of this is going to be over in about 4 or 5 months. And after that, I'm going to take 2 or 3 weeks and get organized and spend some time with the family. And I'm going to begin my new Healthy Life program. And after that, everything is going to be different and it will not be crazy anymore.
When is that life going to happen, Marshall? That's never, man.
It's not going to happen. There's no 2 or 3 weeks. The pace of change, Rob Nail, who was head of Singularity University, has a good saying. He said, the pace of change we are experiencing today is the slowest pace of change you will ever experience for the rest of your life. The pace of change we are experiencing today is the slowest pace of change you will ever experience for the rest of your life. It's not slowing down.
Wow. Yeah, that is an obvious statement once you say it out loud. And yet we never believe that's true unless we actually hear it resonate in us. Wow. That's so true, right? I mean, I think about, 30 years ago, life was pretty simple. And even 30 minutes ago, maybe in some cases. And now we're like, holy crap, like, my gosh, slow down, right?
That's right. That's right. So anyway, it's not slowing down. So it is what it is. And, option A, feel bad about it, or option B, make peace.
Wow. 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 That's so good. So Marshall, one of the things that I've heard you talk about is delayed gratification.
Right.
I think that's an interesting conversation too, right? So you want to talk about it's not getting any slower. Well, how much is too much? I mean, you talk about the marshmallow experiment, which I thought was fascinating. Like if they ask them to delay, for 4 or 8 or 16 or 20. But
yeah, you're going fast. Everybody may not know the marshmallow study. So let me just explain this. There was a famous study done at Stanford University by a guy named Walter Mischel called the marshmallow study. So you give a kid a marshmallow. If the kid eats 1, they get 1. If the kid waits, 2. And of course, they allegedly did this longitudinal research, and the kids that ate 1 all became drug addicts, and the kids that ate 2 all got PhDs from Stanford. But the point is pretty clear. Delayed gratification is good. Delayed gratification is good. Almost every self-help book, delayed gratification is good. Here's how you eat less, work out more. Delayed gratification, good. Here's what they didn't do in the study. They didn't take the kid that ate 2 marshmallows and say, kid, wait a little bit more. 3. Wait some more. 4, 5, 10, 100, 1,000. And where does the story end? An old man waiting to die in a room surrounded by thousands of uneaten marshmallows. Sometimes you got to eat the marshmallow. Sometimes you got to eat the marshmallow. And then I love the Jack Welch story. You know, Jack Welch, my friend knows Jack Welch. Jack Welch almost dies. So he said, you know, he had triple bypass. Jack, what'd you learn when you almost died? He said, why am I drinking the damn cheap wine every night? He said, I'm rich. I get his wine cellar filled with great wine. Every night I'm drinking cheap wine. I'm waiting for the wine in the wine cellar to appreciate in value. This is Jack Welch. Jack Welch, guy's worth hundreds of millions of bucks, waiting for some stupid wine to appreciate in value, which is going to make this much difference in his net worth, right? And he's drinking cheap wine. You know what his commitment was after he almost died? No more cheap wine for me.
That's crazy, huh?
No more cheap wine for me. Enough of that delayed gratification stuff. If all you do is delay gratification, you know what you get in life? Delay. You know what you don't get? Gratification.
That's so funny, Marshall. That is so funny, man. So wow. Well, I think this is your best book yet. And I say yet because you're not done yet. But this is fantastic. So, Marshall, I gotta ask you this, right? So, you're 70 now. You've done a lot of 73 now. Get out of here. 73. Okay, so 73. So older than I thought, and I mean that in a good way. Like, but Marshall, when you look back at right after you had gotten that surfboard accident, like what would you tell 27-year-old Marshall about what was coming next?
You know what? I'm often asked a question, if I had to go back in time, what would I change? And the answer is nothing. Now, the reason I would change nothing is not because I didn't make mistakes. I mean, the surfboard was obviously a mistake. I made millions of mistakes, as we all make mistakes every day. Why would I change nothing? If you erase the mistake, you erase everything you learned from the mistake. And if I look at my life, I'm from a small town called Valley Station, Kentucky. My high school was ranked number 2 from the bottom in terms of academic achievement in Kentucky. Number 2 from the bottom in Kentucky. We were defeated by Appalachia, and my grade school would have been worse than a high school. So the odds on me being here on this thing and 4 New York Times bestsellers from there would be roughly a snowball's chance in hell. You know, and I studied enough science fiction to know you change the timeline, you might make it better, but it might make it worse. And you know what? I'm good. I'm good. You know what I would change? 0. I wouldn't change anything because you know what? Might make it better, could make it worse, probably would make it worse. And again, we all want to erase the mistake. But then you erase everything you learned from the mistake.
Yeah.
Even that mistake, which was a stupid mistake, is in my book.
Yeah. Good stuff. So, okay, Marshall, so I'm going to flip that around then. Seeing as you don't want to change anything. So what do you want to accomplish in the remaining 20 or 30 years that you have? What's next for Marshall? What's important to you?
My larger aspiration is I want to make a positive difference in the lives of as many people as I can in the minimum time I have left to do it. I doubt I have 30 years, but in the time I have left to do it, I want to make the biggest positive difference I can. And so I give everything away, all my material, you can copy, share, download, duplicate. I've got this program called 100 Coaches. I teach people all I know for free. And the only price is they have to do the same thing when they get old. So, you know, my goal is just to have maximum positive impact. And let's talk about this session we're having. So, Phil, let's imagine a few people have a little better life based upon our talk. It's good enough for me.
Good enough for me too. Absolutely, Marshall. Absolutely. No, I love that. Love that. Well, Marshall, congratulations on another great book. I haven't read everything that you've read, but in the last 25 years, I've read a lot of your work. This is truly my favorite. The Earned Life is a great book, friends. If you don't know Marshall Goldsmith, and I don't know why the heck you wouldn't, but if you don't, it's easy to spell. You go to marshallgoldsmith.com. You find him anywhere. Throw him in a search engine. Marshall, for the last 25 years, I've wanted to talk to you. Today, you made my day. You made my life infinitely better, Marshall. Thank you for this, my friend, and I appreciate you very, very much. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.